Welcome back to Calculated Risk. I am Tyler Shoemaker, joined as always by Kelley Ford. And week 6 is upon us. I tweeted out earlier this week that it's week 5, and I was like, my God, the season is flying by. It feels like it was just week 0. We're already, reaching the midpoint here, Kelley, and been great so far. And we've got some huge games this weekend, so can't wait to get into those with you. We'll kick it off here. Red River, whatever you want to call it, rivalry, shootout, showdown. I've seen it called like 10 different things. Texas and Oklahoma. The line currently sitting at Texas minus 6.5 with an over/under of 60.5. Kelley, I'll let you do the honors here. This is probably the biggest one of the weekend.
It is absolutely the biggest one of the weekend, Tyler. It's possibly the biggest game of the year, and I will say this is the Red River shootout to me. I know what people call it. I know why people don't call it the shootout. I understand all that. I get it. It's the shootout to me. It's what I grew up with it being called. I just love, Tyler, the fact that within the word shootout, you can put the OU logo in shootout, and in River, you can put the Longhorn logo as the V. Like, to me, like that right there ends the debate. Red River shootout, because you got the logos in there. I love it. That's what I call it. But for this game, I mean, I'll stop talking about the name. It's got a watchability score of 9.8, Tyler. It's number 2 on my list of best regular season games all year, behind only Penn State at Ohio State coming up here in a couple of weeks. Before I dive into the predictive elements, which, of course, is what we need to look at when we're talking about picking this game, I want to take a look at these resumes for these teams because it is October now. Resumes are starting to really take shape. If they haven't already, they're going to after this week. We're in the heart of conference play now. We've got, the weather changing in most parts of the country. Put your sweatshirts on, open those windows. It's going to be so much fun. This is college football weather at its finest. Texas is my number 1 team in the most deserving rankings. Thanks largely to a win in Tuscaloosa, there's only a 9% chance that the average top 25 team would be 5-0 against the Longhorn schedule. That's the best in the nation. Texas has outscored its opponents by 11.1 points per game more than would be expected of the average top 25 team against the Longhorn schedule. That's number 6 in the nation. Put it all together, Texas has 1.1 more wins than projected through 5 weeks. It's a very strong resume for Texas. They're exceeding expectations with regard to the win-loss record, and they're looking really good doing it. On the other side, the Sooners are number 7 in my most deserving rankings. Oklahoma is outscoring its opponents by 18.4 points per game, more than would be expected of the average top 25 team against the Sooner schedule. That's the best in the country. And while Oklahoma's schedule difficulty can rightly be questioned, like it's not the most difficult, there is still just a 50% chance that the average top 25 team would be 5-0 against the Sooner schedule. So from a resume standpoint, man, both these teams are looking really, really good. From a predictive standpoint, Tyler, which that's what's important for picking this game, both these teams are looking really good. My model actually has Oklahoma minus 1.5 in this game. I know Texas is the Vegas favorite. It's a 55% win expectancy for the Sooners. In my gut, I don't love that, I'll be honest, because I look at these teams and I watch these teams and I think Texas is a better team, but the model's been so impressed by Oklahoma and just how dominant they've been really from the jump this year. Yes, Texas has played a more difficult schedule. Oklahoma's looked significantly better against their schedule, even after we account for the schedule difficulty and the relative strength of the opponents there. So that's what the model says. No team has been upgraded by the model more this year during the season than Oklahoma. The Sooners are up 9.9 points compared to the preseason. They've risen from number 14 in the preseason to now a season best number 2. Tyler, I know you've had them number 1. They're my number 2 team this week in the ratings. It's the best they've been all year. As expected, this offense has been terrific. They've risen from number 9 to number 5. That's the best in the Big 12. But it's the defense that has impressed me the most relative to their expectations. They were number 40 for me in the preseason. They are now number 15 currently. That's second best in the Big 12 behind, you guessed it, the Texas Longhorns. So other than this game, my numbers favor Oklahoma by at least 17 points in each of their remaining regular season contests. It's only going to get easier from here for Oklahoma with regard to their schedule. If they take care of business here, you go ahead and just like lock them into Arlington. They'd have a 94% chance to make the conference championship game if they win this one. It's still a 67% chance if they lose because of the relative the relative ease of their schedule moving forward. For Texas, I'm already a believer. The model's already a believer. But this is the week that we can 100% beyond doubt cement the notion that, quote, Texas is back, Tyler, if they get this win. I have Texas power rated number 6 nationally. It's right where I had them to start the season. just like Oklahoma, the offense has been as good as expected. They're number 8 in the country. That's second in the Big 12 behind the Sooners. And also like the Sooners, the defense, that's the side that I've been even more impressed with. They've exceeded expectations. They came into the year number 16. They are now number 4. That's the best mark in the Big 12. Other than this game for Texas, my numbers make the Longhorns a favorite of at least 11 points in every remaining game. 69% chance currently to make it to Arlington. If they win, it jumps up to an 87% chance. If they lose, it drops closer to 50-50. But bottom line, Tyler, I've got Oklahoma minus 1.5. It's a 45% chance that Texas holds on to its number 1 most deserving ranking. But again, my gut tells me that Texas might be the better team here. I know what the model says. That's what I'm thinking right now. It's going to be a great game regardless, though.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of key points there. One being if Oklahoma can get out of this weekend alive, the rest of their schedule is relatively easy. I mean, they don't have any huge hurdles in the way between them and Arlington, like you said. So I think that to me gives more ammunition here for Oklahoma. It's like, all right, we got to get up for this one game, and then you essentially could put it on cruise control the rest of the season until the Big 12 championship. So I project this game Oklahoma minus 8. As we've discussed, my numbers extremely high on Oklahoma, have been here for a few weeks now. That's a 74% win probability for Oklahoma. We've got their offense number 1 in the country now, even slightly ahead of USC. While their defense is number 5. So top 5 unit on both sides of the ball for me right now. The Texas offense is number 12, and their defense is number 4. So 1 spot ahead of Oklahoma, like you said. So these are 2 really good teams. I mean, the Texas offense is the only unit in the game not in the top 10 nationally for me. So it's going to be a great game. This is one of those games, kind of like Ole Miss Alabama earlier in the year, where it's like, okay, my numbers are way off of the market here. So let's see what happens. Unfortunately for me, in that one, Alabama took care of business and Ole Miss did not cover or win as I projected them to. So I don't know that I've been this anxious for a game that doesn't involve my team, just because I've established quite an Oklahoma following now on Twitter, and I know those people were so excited that I had them projected to win by 8. So I hope I don't let them down here. So I'm very anxious for this game on Saturday. So let's get to our next marquee matchup. I mentioned Alabama. They travel to College Station to take on the Texas A&M Aggies. Line currently sits Alabama minus 2 with a total of 46.5. The line earlier this week was Alabama minus 3.5, and there's been Texas A&M money coming in all week. Some spots now even down to 1.5. So I project this Texas A&M as a 4.5 point favorite here. Again, my numbers since after the Texas game have not been very kind to Alabama. You can debate whether that's warranted or not. I don't think they've looked great, and as we've discussed, their preseason priors are barely a factor for me at this point. The Alabama offense is number 37 after being, I believe, in the top 5 in the preseason for me. So a huge drop offensively. Obviously, they do hit some explosives. One thing Jalen Milroe can do is throw the ball deep. So they do hit some big shots, which helps. But just from a down to down kind of efficiency standpoint, they have not been very good. But their defense, on the other hand, number 3 in the country for me. Defense has been excellent and is rounding into form. I think the biggest surprise here, other than the Alabama offense, is the Texas A&M offense that was completely anemic last year. They bring in Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator. I know Connor Wegman's out with an injury, but the backup had played, has a ton of experience from LSU, Max Johnson, and he's actually played pretty well when he's been in there. So I don't think it's a huge downgrade to Max Johnson here for Texas A&M. And the A&M defense I have ranked number 17 in the country. One interesting note here: A&M is beating the spread by 4 points per game more than Alabama. So odds makers have kind of been off on both these teams, but have been way more off on A&M. They've been able to cover at a much better clip than Alabama so far this season. So from a betting perspective, take that for what it's worth. Kelly, what does your model say here on this game?
Yeah, Tyler, I like listening to you break it down with your numbers because while the final result, like the final, projected spread or even winner may not be the same, there's so many commonalities and similar sentiments about whether it's a unit or just your take on a particular, side of the ball or the run game, the passing game. There's so many similarities, even if we don't end up in the same place. So I just really enjoy listening to you when you're talking about what your numbers say. So for me, Tyler, I've got this one. I'm on the other side as you on this one. I've got Alabama to win by 5.5. It's about a 65% win expectancy for the Crimson Tide. And so here's what I think about Alabama. I mean, despite ranking a very respectable number 4 in the power ratings, their power rating rank is number 4 right now. This 2023 version of the Crimson Tide is not Nick Saban's best. It's not even close to Nick Saban's best. The last time Alabama's KFord power rating was worse than it is right now was 2008. So it's been 15 years since the last time we saw an Alabama team that was power rated as lowly as they are now. And again, they're number 4 nationally. So that just goes to show you what Alabama's been over the years. For Alabama, though, they don't have to be better than the previous versions of themselves. They just have to be better than the teams that are on their schedule. And by my numbers, that's really precisely what Alabama is. They're favored by at least 8.5 points in every remaining regular season game outside of this week in College Station. It's the Tide's defense is currently the stronger of the two units by my numbers. They began the season number 9, fell to number 19 after the loss at home to Texas, but they've surged all the way up to number 5 now nationally following games against USF, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They've given up just an average of 10 points during that span. The offense entered the season number 4. They rose to number 2 following the 56-7 win against Middle Tennessee in week 1, but they've since fallen to number 20. So that's trending in the wrong direction for the offensive side of the ball. Even with that, though, the Crimson Tide are outscoring their opponents by 7.7 points per game more than would be expected of the average top 25 team against that Crimson Tide schedule. That relative scoring margin ranks number 9 nationally. The standard at Alabama, though, is national championships. And so, ranking number 4 in the power ratings, ranking number 9 in relative scoring margin, is that good enough for the Crimson Tide fans? I don't know, but I still think this Alabama team is pretty good, even if they aren't up to the same level they've been previously. In the preseason, I had A&M power rated number 16. I had 4.0 projected wins for the Aggies through 5 weeks. Currently, Texas A&M is number 16 in the power ratings, and they are 4-1 on the season. So they have performed almost exactly as the model predicted to this point. The one notable variation that I have from the preseason projections is, you touched on it, Tyler, the Bobby Petrino-led offense. I projected them to be number 49 coming into the year. Through 5 games, they've averaged 38.6 points per game against teams with an average power rating rank of number 65, which is not great, but that's better than a lot of other teams' average opponent power rating rank at this point. So during this season, Texas A&M offense has improved now to number 21. You pair that with the fact that I have this defense number 6, and this is the best Aggie team minus the 2020 COVID year, which I think we can all agree there's just some wonkiness in the data there. So take that year out of it. This is the best Aggie team we've seen since Johnny Manziel was quarterbacking the Aggies to a number 3 finish in the power ratings on his way to winning the Heisman back in 2012. So, I mean, this A&M team's really good for their, recent history. This Alabama team's really bad for their recent history. And all that together, I still make Alabama a 5.5 point road favorite. 35% chance that Texas A&M gets this upset win at home. I talked about the Red River Shootout being my number 2 game of the entire regular season by watchability. This game's number 13, Tyler. So, I mean, we got 2 top 15 games on the slate this week for the entire year. I am definitely excited about this one as well. And I love that your background here for those watching is Kyle Field. It is Texas A&M. He didn't go with the Cotton Bowl. I thought for sure, because I love how you always put up the virtual background. I thought for sure you'd have the Cotton Bowl. You went Kyle Field. I respect that. It's going to be a tough environment for the Crimson Tide. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's one point that I was thinking about a lot too, is for whatever reason, for all of Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M shortcomings over the years, the one thing they've been able to do, even with lesser teams against much better Alabama teams, is play Alabama really tough, especially at home. They obviously beat them 2 years ago at home. They arguably should have beaten them last year when Jalen Milroe came into the game when Bryce Young was hurt. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like this is one of those coaching matchups where Jimbo Fisher kind of knows how to play against Nick Saban, how to coach against Nick Saban, which there are a lot of coaches I don't think Jimbo Fisher knows how to coach against, but for whatever reason, his teams seem to give Nick Saban's teams a lot of trouble, and I'm very curious to see how this one plays out. Again, another big one, in terms of just, model perception. It's not actually going to change anything as far as my process or anything like that, but it is these type of games where I'm projecting a different outright winner than the spread than Vegas. That those games are exciting to me. So looking forward to that one for sure. Our last marquee game of the weekend. I feel like we've talked about this team every week. Notre Dame traveling to Louisville. Line currently sitting at Notre Dame -6.5 with a total of 54. Kelly, I'm curious to get your thoughts here. This has been kind of a gauntlet here for Notre Dame. Louisville coming off a game against NC State last week where they won by 3. You could argue they should have lost, and you could argue they should have won by 17. That game was kind of fluky. There were some crazy plays in that game. That game ultimately got NC State quarterback Brennan Armstrong benched for the rest of the season. So I just wonder how Notre Dame's going to respond to now its third consecutive high leverage primetime game, on the road again for the second straight week. So curious to get your thoughts here on this game.
Yeah, I've got Notre Dame -7, Tyler. It's a 69% win expectancy. It's interesting. The Irish have floated between number 10 and number 13 in my power ratings all season. They've been remarkably consistent within that range. I currently have Notre Dame number 11. They have the number 14 offense and the number 11 defense. There isn't a single game remaining in which my numbers make the Irish an underdog. There's a 17% chance that Notre Dame runs the table and finishes 11-1. With a number 13 record achievement and number 11 relative scoring margin, Notre Dame ranks number 12 in my most deserving metric. It doesn't always work out that you're right between those two. It just does for Notre Dame. And the Irish are absolutely still in the CFP conversation, and they have to get the win against Louisville if they want to continue to be in that conversation. They need to win out if they want to continue to be in it. But again, my numbers give that a 17% chance to happen. They're favored in every single game. On the other side, it's been a dream start for Jeff Brom. First year head coach at his alma mater. The Cardinals are number 19 on my most deserving rankings. They're number 29 in my power ratings. They have the number 27 defense, the number 27 offense, 26 defense. That said, the Irish present the most difficult test for Louisville on both sides of the ball, and it isn't particularly close to this point. Even though this game is in Louisville, my numbers suggest the Irish are going to be too much for the Cardinals on both sides of the ball. I don't think Louisville, I know my projected bet's -7. I could see it being worse than that. Louisville is a scrappy team. They find ways to win. We've seen that. I get it. I think if Notre Dame brings their A game, I don't think it's going to be that close. I have Notre Dame -7. It's a 31% chance that Louisville improves to 6-0 on the season. Louisville's an interesting team. This is not a conference game, I know, but they are power rated for me number 7 in the ACC, number 7 in their own conference. They have the second best odds to make the ACC championship game, though, by my current numbers, because that schedule is what it is. They don't play Clemson. They don't play North Carolina. They don't have to play Miami. Is it Miami? They don't have to play some of the main contenders in the ACC. As I go to Louisville's schedule really quickly, they do have to play Miami. They don't play North Carolina. They don't play Clemson, and they don't play Florida State. Sorry, those were the 3 that they didn't play. They do have to play Miami. The schedule sets up nice, and this is a non-conference game. So even if they lose this one, they're still going to be, top 2 in my chances to make the ACC championship game, despite being middle of the pack in terms of power rating. So just interesting how that works out. We've talked about Louisville's schedule all year long.
Yeah, it's wild that a team, I think they're a solid team, but a team that has clear flaws. And I mean, my gosh, the Jack Plummer experience at quarterback. If you've never bet on Louisville, the Jack Plummer experience as a Louisville backer is, I mean, you almost have to crack a beer to watch it, because it's like, it is a roller coaster ride. You don't know if he's going to throw a 60-yard touchdown pass or pick 6 on any given play. So certainly a wild ride there. So my numbers are right there with you. It sounds like we're actually pretty aligned on the units and everything in this game. I also project Notre Dame -7. I project a total of 59, so there would be a slight lean to the over here for me. 71% win probability for Notre Dame. The best unit in this game is funny because we actually have the one thing that we aren't in alignment on are the Notre Dame units. I actually have the offense higher than the defense, both high and both kind of in the same range as what you have. But I've got the offense number 10 and the defense number 16 in the country, and Louisville number 30 on offense and number 36 on defense. So we're kind of in the same range. Got that flipped. Louisville's my number 30 team overall. Notre Dame ranked number 11 in my power rankings. In terms of how these teams, from a betting perspective, these teams have been pretty similar against the spread. I don't think there's any real edge to be gained as far as that goes. And I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, but when I'm evaluating which games I'm going to bet on, of course, I start and end with my TSI ratings, of course. But I also run several different formulas and just weigh certain metrics differently just to try to kind of disprove my TSI number, if you will. And those formulas range from Notre Dame -2 to Notre Dame -10. So this is not a game I really want anything to do with from a betting perspective, because the various formulas I run kind of see this going a whole lot of different ways. And with this being the third straight big primetime game for Notre Dame, I don't want any part of this from a betting standpoint. So that's going to wrap up our marquee games of the week. We are now going to introduce our rapid fire segment, where Kelley and I are going to go through a handful of other big-ish games and just give our projections, because we know you guys are interested in our projections, so you can do with those as you will for entertainment purposes. And we're going to start with Georgia versus Kentucky. Georgia, I know this is rapid fire real quick. Georgia looked awful, arguably should have lost to Auburn. I've got Georgia ranked number 17 now, which I've taken some heat for, but I am thoroughly unimpressed with Georgia. Anyway, rapid fire. The line currently sits Georgia -14.5 with a total of 48. TSI projects Georgia -9.5 with a total of 50.5. Kelley, what do you got on Georgia, Kentucky?
I got Georgia -15.5. It's an 87% win expectancy for the Bulldogs. They are power rated number 7 for me. Kentucky is power rated number 31.
All right, moving right along. North Carolina versus Syracuse. Line currently sitting North Carolina -8.5 with a total of 59. TSI actually projects Syracuse as a 3-point favorite with a total of 56.
I've got North Carolina -4. They are power rated number 21. Syracuse is power rated number 27. 62% chance North Carolina wins it outright.
All right, next up, the Buckeyes hosting Maryland. Line's kind of bounced around this week. Last time I checked, it was 20. Ohio State -20 with a total of 57. TSI projects Ohio State -18.5 with a total of 51.5.
Ohio State -18 for me. The Buckeyes are the number 1 power rated team in my power ratings. I have Maryland number 26 in those ratings. It's a 90% chance that Ohio State gets the win outright.
Next up, Ole Miss, fresh off the barn burner with LSU last week, hosting Arkansas. Line currently sitting Ole Miss -11 with a total of 62.5. I project that Ole Miss -15.5 with a total of 60.
Ole Miss -14.5 for me. I have Ole Miss power rated number 13. Arkansas is power rated number 38. 84% chance that the Rebels win it outright.
And our last game here, UCLA hosting Washington State in a huge game in terms of the Pac-12 race. Line currently sitting UCLA -3.5 with a total of 59. I project UCLA -3 with a total of 60.5.
I have UCLA -6. The Bruins are power rated number 24. Washington State power rated number 34. It's a 66% chance for UCLA to win it outright.
All right, that was rapid fire. That's going to do it for this episode. We will be back on Monday with our Week 6 recap, doing our updated power ratings. Have our, I think we both should have our resume rankings by then. Don't hold me to that, but I think we will. So we'll go over all that, talk about what we saw on the field this weekend. Hope everybody enjoys a great Week 6. For Kelley Ford, I'm Tyler Shoemaker, and that was Calculated Risk.